Hello everybody and welcome to Let's Discuss Morrowind. Haven't done one of these videos in a while, so figured I should do one, mostly down to time constraints and all that sort of jazz, but yeah, got time, so I'm going to do a Let's Discuss video in which we chat a little bit about the LP, how it's going, your thoughts, my thoughts, and then we'll have a little bit of a read of the book or books that we have in our inventory thus far, then I can sell them or deposit them or whatever. But first of all, look at this freaking view. Imagine just waking up to that every morning. It is currently 7 AM here in Balmora, and imagine, being the one of those houses over there and just seeing that on a clear day. Freaking amazing. So we're going to watch the sun rise as we have a bit of a chat about stuff. So, don't know if I say this often enough, but thank you ever so much for sticking with the LP, for watching it, for enjoying it, and for your comments and your feedback. It's really nice, really keeps me interested and engaged in the Let's Play. See what just can't get over this. And I just really enjoy playing it because you guys enjoy watching it so much. I don't mean to brag, but I was sort of like looking through the comments of the last couple of videos to, like, assign the points I want to discuss in this video, and there's always one person saying, "Oh, this is the best Let's Play of a Morrowind ever," and I'm like, that's because you're wrong, because that's Interactive Morrowind. But second, it's a close second so far. It's very different anyway, and obviously you guys are really enjoying it, so thanks ever so much for your engagement. Really appreciate it. I don't know if I say it enough, but I do, and hopefully we'll continue for a long time. And the pace that we are going at, it will, because we've just done that bit there, the first quest in the main quest, although we are quite far into House Telvanni. And this leads me to my first point. We are at the stage where we're once we get one of these skills to 50, which will probably be Conjuration, unsurprisingly, we'll be able to proceed a little bit further, and then we're going to get oh yeah, there's that. Then we're going to get our stronghold over here. So there'll be a vote here. Then we're going to put a vote up, probably in the actual video itself right now, of should I install some more mods? Should I install Urvis Legacy and building up Urvis Legacy, as well as everything else? It's been suggested to me a couple of times, and it seems like the way to go. My only issue is if it breaks the game. So, and it shouldn't, to be fair, it shouldn't. There's no reason why it should. I'm just installing extra mods, and these mods, won't have kicked in yet because we don't have the stronghold. So there's no reason why we shouldn't install them now. We have to install them now or not at all. So I'm asking, should I install these mods? And if you say yes, then I will in time for that occurrence, so that we get the most out of Tel Urvith. So there's that. Okay, so stuff's going alright, isn't it? I'm quite enjoying the Let's Play. You guys are enjoying it and everything like that. We're on top of the Fighters Guild now, just for the view, which is now gone because the sun has moved into clouds, but we still get the screeching cats and the hustle and bustle of Balmora below us, and I'm babbling. So the next thing is to do with kind of summons and stuff. I'm pretty much decided that I am going to get a healing spell at the next opportunity on touch, so I can heal my summons, but it won't be for Squishy, because I bought Squishy accidentally, thinking that Squishy was a Bone Lord rather than a Bone Walker, because I wanted to have like Boney and then Mrs. Boney, but I bought Squishy instead. Bought the wrong summon, pretty much. Now, having said that, it's kind of turned out to be the right summon, because Squishy's done really well for us. He is anything but when it comes to most things, and he is holding his own against most of the denizens of the Dwemer Fortress up there. So it was a good buy, it just wasn't intentional. And I won't be healing a Squishy because he's really icky and stuff. Although I do see Karish healing a Bone Lord and a longer duration skeleton, because they're like both sterile, you know, they're just bones, so there's no nastiness to them, whereas, you know, the Bone Walker is practically a zombie, and so it's all rotten and horrible, and breathes in his ear and stuff. And yeah, Karish finds Squishy a necessity, but it was obviously the shopkeeper's fault for selling the wrong spell. You know, he wouldn't buy the wrong spell, he got sold the wrong spell. And yeah, so I want to get a longer duration skeleton, Bony. I want to get a summon Bone Lord, and then I will start healing them with a on-touch healing spell, because that will also help our restoration. So we're doing alright for spells, really, aren't we? You know, everything is tending to be used now, which is nice. We're getting hit quite a bit, which is awesome, of course. And yeah, so everything's getting used. Okay, on to the enchanting bit. So far we've been using, you know, a couple of items, which is nice. But people have been saying that Karish could see it as a plausible sort of income to create items, to enchant pieces of paper and crappy rings and stuff and sell them off at a profit. And I totally get that, and I do want that to be part of his character. I do want him to do that, because that's a very viable thing for him to do. So there's two things kind of stopping me doing that right now, and that is the lack of soul gems, which I have, and the lack of souls, which I can fix. And as you can see, I'm trying to capture things, you know, within the game, but we currently only have these crappy things which can, you know, have like mud crabs and rats in them. But that's something I'm looking at. But also because that, even though it isn't a full-time job, might be a bit too much work for Karish. Too much sort of like a menial job, if you see what I mean. To do things specifically for the aim of making money when he's running into money all the time. How much money have we got now, just out of curiosity? See, we're rich. We are rich. So Karish will need to find the reason to make these, to have to make, you know, to get more money, I suppose. And currently he's bumbling from one job to the other. He's selling stuff on, you know, he's getting loot, he's selling it and stuff, and he's essentially doing quite well in terms of that. He spends all his money and he gets some more. So right now I'm struggling to find a reason why he would want to go out of his way to make more money when he just tends to find it and then spend it and find it and spend it. And it's been 20 odd episodes now, and that's just how it's been for him. That's the pattern of it. But that's been part of his life, because he's been some sort of like only child, rich, you know, spoiled dude who's always just had money. And obviously, you know, maybe some upset servant, or he's got on the wrong side of someone he shouldn't have, who's bundled him off on a prison ship undeservedly, and he's ended up here, and he still has that mindset of money's just going to appear, and so far it has. So long story short is I do want to make items for it. I think that's a really good idea, and I definitely see him doing more of that stuff when he becomes like a Telvanni mage in his tower. I plan to just like have sessions of him pottering around in his stronghold, just doing what Karish wants to do. Playing around with stuff in that, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards into on the mods as well, so there'll be a little more engagement there as well. But right now I don't see it being a part of the gameplay, but you know, we'll see. Maybe he'll sort of do it accidentally and find out, oh hang on, that was really easy. And potions, kind of the same. He needs a place to do that. The only thing is with potions is enchanting items is very clean, very clinical. Potions involves icky substances, and you know, you might get dirty and everything like that. So I think he would need a specific place to do that, and a specific outfit to do it with. So that, again, that will be sort of coming when he gets the stronghold, which hopefully won't be too long, because we're happily questing, both in the main quest and just doing random errands. We've got the bad people quest again, so well, fully now, so we can see if we can do that. Now the bad people quest, bit of a link there, will involve the hate me spell, which, you know, I want to rename as, I might you know, do a better version called Bad Joke. Now I completely broke character a couple of episodes back, where I I must have been recording it when I was tired or not really in the zone, if you like, because it can happen. And I tried to cast this on somebody, Pella Jigayad, because they had a trinket on them that somebody told me about. And that just really wouldn't be what Karish would do. So I'm really glad that the spell failed. And I just reloaded. And I kind of realized that, you know, I shouldn't have done that. And so I just reloaded and kind of carried on. Turns out that that item was just one of the threads of the web spinner, which is just an item that adds +5 to a skill when you wear it. So not ultra, ultra useful anyway. But yeah, Karish wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have. He wouldn't have gone out his way to kill somebody for a trinket that he heard about. So that was bad me. But generally, you guys are pleased with the way that I am playing the character and getting through all the trials and tribulations of playing this character. There's a shrine over there. Can we? Does it have the into thingy thing? Does it have the restoration? Let's just have a quick look. And I'm quite pleased with it. Well, I'm quite pleased at how he's kind of developing. So all in all, that's pretty good. It's pretty nice. But there was just that there's a couple of exceptions, and sometimes I've had to use the console to stop the game screwing me over and everything like that, like with the rats in the sewers and with fuel. Ooh, so I can do it here as well. Because Karish doesn't know that, but I know it now, so that's something that I could maybe look at. But he's going to have to come across one of those. And in another sort of like link, you can come across those in tombs occasionally. I'll just jump up here so I don't wander around as I'm speaking. And I want to do a bit more sort of random stuff with Karish, so he goes into random caves and everything. And when he first started out, that was fine. We didn't do that. There was no reason to. And there still isn't like that much, but he's got a bit more confidence now. And also, I think a good reason for him to go into random caves and tombs and egg mines and that sort of stuff is to avoid the weather. And somebody did suggest this, and I apologise. I've just written the comment down without writing the username, so I apologise. But I think that as we're wandering along, if we hit some rain or whatever, rather than just ignoring it, saying, well, we've got a robe on, it's fine. The robe will kind of, mitigate that and make it a little bit easier to deal with, but he will look for shelter. And that's a good way to, like, go into a cave. Now, inevitably, those caves will involve bad guys that try and kill him. And, yes, would you rather get wet or have someone try and kill him? He'd probably just prefer to get wet. But it's the best reason I can think of that he would go into random caves and tombs. It'll also let us get a bit more loot, more soul gems, more scrolls and everything, and just make it a little bit easier to, accelerate the Karish building process, even though I'm not in a massive rush, and I'm pretty happy, reasonably happy with the progress we've got so far. Just a little bit of a push. I don't think will a bit of variety as well will help too much. And it's not like we're going to go in there and destroy everything really easily. Those dungeons, no matter where they are, will be a challenge in themselves, and I can, more or less categorically say that more than once we'll have to run away. Because there's still a lot of stuff out there that we have no chance of dealing with. And as the level lists start to kick in and we get more Kagutis out there and more scary things, Karish is a weak character anyway, so we're going to continue to struggle, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Right, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. I sort of scrolled through the comments of the last couple of videos, so I got the main points out there. If I missed anything, then apologies. Drop me a line if you like. There's a we can maybe discuss it in the next last discuss video. Generally, I think that's all I wanted to get off my chest with it. I'm really pleased with the Let's Play. Those of you who are watching it, and it's still pretty popular, seem to really enjoy it as well. So thank you very much for watching and commenting and your feedback and everything. And you guys are helping to shape this character, even though I am obviously the driving force behind what he does. Little subtleties in everything is, and just the way he's kind of expanding is a lot down to you guys as well. So I'll see you hopefully on Sunday for the next episode. I shall now read a book, but there will be a slight jump cut in case I mess up reading it and want to start again. I don't want to have to record this entire thing over again. So jump cut and then reading the one book in our inventory, which is this plain paper. No, it's the Dancing Fire, Chapter 4. Boom. So this is by Wagin Jarth. 18 Bosmary and 1 Silturic a former senior clerk from the Imperial Buildings Commission, trudged through the jungle westward from the Xylo River to the ancient village of Vindisi. For Decimus Scotti, the jungle was hostile, unfamiliar ground. The enormous vermiculated trees, never heard that before, filled the bright morning with darkness and resembled nothing so much as grasping claws bent on impeding their progress. Even the fronds from the low plants quivered with malevolent energy. What was worse, he was not alone in his anxiety. His fellow travellers, the natives who had survived the Khajiit attacks on the village of Grinos and Athay, wore faces of undisguised fear. There was something sentient in the jungle, and not merely the mad but malevolent indigenous species. In his peripheral vision, Scotti could see the shadows of the Khajiit following the refugees, leaping from tree to tree. When he turned to face them, the lithe forms vanished into the gloom as if they had never been there. But he knew he had seen them, and the Bosmary knew them too, and quickened their pace, or saw them too. After 18 hours, bitten raw by insects, scratched by 1,000 thorns, they emerged into a valley clearing. It was night, but a row of blazing torches greeted them, illuminating the weather-wrought tents and jumbled stones of the hamlet of Vindisi. At the end of the valley, the torches marked a sacred site, a gnarled bower of trees pressed together to form a temple. Wordlessly, the Bosmary walked the torch arcade towards the trees. Scotti followed them. When they reached the solid mass of living wood, with only one gaping portal, Scotti could see a dim blue light glowing within. A low, sonorous moan came from 100 voices. Echoed within. The Bosmary maiden he had been following held out her hand, stopping him. You do not understand, but no outsider, not even a friend, may enter, she said. This is a holy place. Scotti nodded and watched the refugees march into the temple, heads bowed. Their voices joined with the ones within. When the last wood elf had gone inside, Scotti turned his attention back to the village. There must be foods to be had somewhere. A tendril of smoke and a faint whiff of roasted venison beyond the torchlight led him. There were 5 Cyrodiils, 2 Bretons and a Nord. The group gathered around a campfire of glowing white stones, pulling steaming strips of meat from the cadaver of a great stag. At Scotti's approach, they rose up, all but the Nord, who was distracted by his hunk of animal flesh. Good evening. Sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering if I might have a little of something to eat. I'm afraid I'm rather hungry after walking all day with some refugees from Grinos and Athay. They bade him to sit down and eat, and introduce themselves. So the war's back on, it seems, said Scotti amiably. The best thing for these effete do-nothings, replied the Noid in between bites. I've never seen such a lazy culture. Now they've got the Khajiit striking them on land and the high elves at sea. If there's any providence that deserves a little distress, it's damnable Valenwood. I don't see how they're so offensive to you, laughed one of the Bretons. They're congenital thieves. Worse than the Khajiit because they're so blessed meat in their aggression. The Nord spat out a glob of fat which sizzled on the hot stones of the fire. They spread their forces into a territory that doesn't belong to them, slowly infiltrating their neighbours, and they're puzzled when elsewhere shoves back at them. They're all villains of the worst order. What are you doing here? Asked Scotti. I'm a diplomat from the court of Gehenna, muttered the Nord, returning to his food. Well, what about you? What are you doing here? He asked one of the Cyrodiils. I worked for Lord Atreus' building commission in the city, said Scotti. One of my former colleagues suggested that I come down to Valenwood. He said the war was over, and I could contract a great deal of business for my firm rebuilding what was lost. One disaster after another, and I've lost all my money. I'm in the middle of rekindling war, and I cannot find my former colleague. Your former colleague, murmured the other of the Cyrodiils, who introduced himself as Virgilius. He wasn't by chance named Lodius Jurius, was he? You know him? He lured me down to Vela Wood in nearly the exact same circumstances, smiled Virgilius grimly. I worked for your employer's competitor, Lord Van X-Men, where Lodius Jurius has also formerly worked. He wrote to me asking if I represent an Imperial Building Commission and contract some post-war construction. I had just been released from my employment, and I thought that if I brought some new business, I could have my job back. Jurius and I met in a Thay, and he said he was going to arrange a very lucrative meeting with me in Sylvanar. Scotty was stunned. Where is he now? I'm no theologian, but so I couldn't say. Virgilius shrugged. He's dead. When the Khajiit attacked Thay, they began by torching the harbour where Jurius was readying his boat, or I should say my boat, since it was purchased with the gold I brought. By the time we were even aware of what was happening, enough to flee, everything by the water was ash. The Khajiit may be animals, but they know how to arrange an attack. I think they followed us through the jungle to Vindisi, said Scotty nervously. There was definitely a group of something jumping along the treetops. Probably one of the monkey folk, snorted the Nord. Nothing to be concerned about. When we first came to Vindisi and the Bosmeri all entered that tree, they were furious, whispering something about unleashing an ancient terror on their enemies. The Breton shivered, remembering. They've been there ever since, for over a day and a half now. If you want something to be afraid of, that's the direction to look. The other Breton, who was a representative of a Daggerfall Mages Guild, was staring off into the darkness, while his fellow provincial spoke. Maybe, but there's something in the jungle too, right on the edge of the village, looking in. More refugees, maybe? Asked Scotty, trying to keep the alarm out of his voice. Not unless they're travelling through the trees now, whispered the wizard. The Nord and one of the Cyrodiils grabbed a long tarp of the wet leather and pulled it across the fire, instantly extinguishing it without so much as a sizzle. Now Scotty could see the intruders, their elliptical yellow eyes and long, cruel blades catching the torchlight. He froze with fear, praying that he too was not so visible to them. He felt something bump against his back. He gasped. Virgilius' voice hissed up from above. Be quiet for Mara's sake and climb up here. Scotty grabbed hold of the knotted double vine that hung down from a tall tree at the edge of the dead campfire. He scrambled up it as quickly as he could, holding his breath lest any grunt of exertion escape him. At the top of the vine, high above the village, was an abandoned nest from some great bird in a trident-shaped branch. As soon as Scotty had pulled himself onto the soft, fragrant straw, Virgilius pulled up the vine. No one else was there, and when Scotty looked down, he could see no one below. No one, that is, except the Khajiit slowly moving towards the glow of the temple tree. Thank you, whispered Scotty, deeply touched that the competitor had helped him. He turned away from the village and saw that the tree's upper branches brushed against the mossy rock walls that surrounded the valley below. How good at you were climbing. You're mad, said Virgilius under his breath. We should stay here until they leave. If they burn Vindisi like they did Arthay and Greenos, we'll be dead, sure as if we were on the ground. Scotty began the slow, careful climb up the tree, testing each branch. Can you see what they're doing? I can't really tell. Virgilius stared down at the gloom. I think they're at the front of the temple. I think they also have, it looks like long ropes trailing off behind them, off into the pass. Scotty crawled onto the strongest branch that pointed towards the wet, rocky face of the cliff. It was not a far jump at all, so close in fact that he could smell the moisture and feel the coolness of the stone. But it was a jump nevertheless, and in his history as a clerk he had never before leapt from a tree 100 feet off the ground to a sheer rock. He pictured in his mind the shadows that had pursued him through the jungle from the heights above. Now their legs coiled into spring, how their arms snapped forward in elegant fluid motion to grasp. He leapt. His hands grappled for rock, but long thick cords of moss were more accessible. He held hard, but when he tried to plant his feet forward, they slipped up skyward. For a few seconds he found himself upside down before he managed to pull himself into a more conventional position. There was a narrow outcropping jutting out of the cliff where he could stand and finally exhale. Regelius! 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 Scotty did not dare to call out. In a minute, there was a shaking of branches, and Lord Veriax's man emerged. First his satchel, then his head, and the rest of him. Scotty started to whisper something, but Regelius shook his head violently and pointed downward. One of the Khajiit were at the base of the tree, peering at the remains of the campfire. Regelius awkwardly tried to balance himself on the branch, but as strong as it was exceedingly difficult with only one free hand. Scotty cupped his palms and then pointed at the satchel. It seemed to pain Regelius to let it out of his grasp, but he relented and tossed it to Scotty. There was a small, almost invisible hole in the bag, and when Scotty caught it, a single gold coin dropped out. It rang as it bounced against the rock wall on the descent. A high, soft sound that seemed like the largest alarm Scotty had ever heard. Then many things happened very quickly. The Cathay rat at the base of the tree looked up and gave a loud wail. The other Khajiit followed in chorus, and the cat below crouched down and then sprung up into the lower branches. Regelius saw it below him, climbing up with impossible dexterity, and panicked. Even before he jumped, Scotty could tell that he was going to fall. With a cry, Regelius the clerk plunged to the ground, breaking his neck on impact. A flash of white fire erupted from every crevice of the temple, and the moan of the Bosmer prayer changed to something terrible and otherworldly. The climbing Cathay rat stopped and stared. Kurgio, gasped the wild hunt. It was as if a crack in reality had opened wide. A flood of horrific beasts, tentacled toads, insects of armor and spine, gelatinous serpents, vaporous beings with the face of gods, all poured from the great hollow tree, blind with fury. They tore the Khajiit in front of the temple to pieces. All the other cats fled for the jungle. But as they did so, they began pulling on the ropes they carried. In a few seconds' time, the entire village of Indisi was boiling with the lunatic operations of the wild hunt. Over the babbling, barking, howling horde, Scotty heard the Cyrodiils in hiding cry out as they were devoured. The Nord, too, was found and eaten, and both Bretons. The wizard had turned himself invisible, but the swarm did not rely on their sight. The tree of the Cathay rat was in began to sway and rock from the impossible violence beneath it. Scotty looked at the Khajiit's fear-struck eyes and held out one of the cords of moss. The cat's face showed its pitiful gratitude as it leapt for the vine. It didn't have time to entirely replace that expression when Scotty pulled back the cord and watched it fall. The hunt consumed it to the bone before it struck the ground. Scotty's own jump up to the next outcropping of rock was immeasurably more successful. From there, he pulled himself to the top of the cliff that was able to look down to the chaos that had been the village of Vindisi. The hunt's mass had grown and begun to spill out through the pass out of the valley, pursuing the fleeing Khajiit. It was then that the madness truly began. In the moon's light from Scotty's vantage, he could see where the Khajiit had attached the ropes. With a thunderous boom, an avalanche of boulders poured over the pass. When the dust cleared, he saw that the valley had been sealed. The wild hunt had nowhere to turn it on but itself. Scotty turned his head, unable to bear to look at the cannibalistic orgy. The night jungle stood before him, a web of wood. He slung Regelius' satchel over his shoulder and entered. Wow, okay, that escalated quickly. It's a shame that we got the Dancing Fire version 5 first, so... Or was it 6? We read the last one first, which is a shame, but I think that Karish is going to start collecting these. Because Scotty's, like, his adventure is almost as epic as Karish's own. Almost. Okay, everyone, I'll see you next time for more Morrowind. Until then, thank you very much for watching. And toodling.